And I'm Liz. Let's click this. I'm one of the creative managers over at Premier Yarns, and I'd like to say thank you to all of you for joining me here today to crochet, and thank you to Michaels for sponsoring this class. I'm going to get right to it with the supplies. I listed this as a beginner level class, so I'm going to try to go over everything as slowly and as detailed as I possibly can. So I'm going to show you each and every stitch, and I'm also going to go over the pattern while we do it because I think it's helpful to learn how to read a pattern and get exposed to as many patterns as you can, because then you'll be able to, just make anything from any pattern. Okay, so let's switch over to my hand camera here. I've got my Joy DK. This is the Joy DK Ripple Crochet Scarf. It's only a few rows repeat, so it's going to be simple once you get the hang of the 2 rows that we have to do. And you just need your 5mm crochet hook and your scissors. This is a nice lightweight yarn. It's machine washable and it's anti-pilling, so you won't have a lot of pilling on it. Okay. Now, if anybody has any questions as we go along, just put them in the chat. I'm going to try to keep my eye on the chat, but if I miss it, I'll try to go back. But I'm going to try to keep my eye on it, so feel free to interrupt me if you have a question. Okay, so let me move this out of the way so we can see it better. Yeah. So I'm going to start, as we do with every project, with my chain, okay? My slip knot and my chain. To make your slip knot, this is how I do it. I just put this piece over to make sort of like a loop. So the short end, I put it over to make a loop. And then I just put my 2 fingers in there like that and give it like a turn. So once you put that piece over, the short tail, put your 2 fingers in and turn it, grab that short tail and pull it on through. And then you've got a slip knot that will loosen and tighten. So let's just put our hook right into that slip knot. And part of learning how to crochet is learning how to hold your hook and your yarn. But once you get used to that, you can just kind of learn all the stitches and then you're on your way. So first we're going to start with some chains. And the pattern says to chain 47. That's the first bit of instructions. So we are just going to chain 47. I'm going to grab my yarn like this and pull it through that first loop that I made that's already on the hook. And that gives me 1 chain. And then I'm just going to continue to do that for 47. So that's 2. That one's a little too big. There we go. We'll try to make them nice and even. If you keep your tension nice and even, you'll have nice even chains. If they're too tight, you won't be able to work into them, and we're going to work into these, so we have to keep them somewhat loose. So that's 2, 3, 4. See how easy this is once you get the hang of it. 5, 6. I'm just grabbing that yarn and pulling it through. 7, 8, 9, 10. And like I said, I'm doing this really slow, so if you want to work along with me, you are more than welcome to. And this is also going to be recorded, so if you have to go back, slow it down and go through it, you can do it that way too. So let me see how many I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I have 17 chains. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47. See how it's just muscle memory once you get used to it. So this is going to be sort of my base. So this is how wide my scarf's going to be. And then we're just going to work up to make it long. But here I have 47 chains. And as you can see, I did them kind of on the looser side so I can easily work right into those chains. This is the, you could say the top part of the chain. And then if you roll it over, this is like the bottom part of the chain. Okay, so see how it looks different? It looks like a sort of a V, all these little V's. And if you turn it over, there's a little bump right here. See, there's a bump and a bump and a bump and a bump. And sometimes patterns will ask you to work into that bump instead of working directly into that chain, which this one does. It says on row 1, working in the back bump of the chain. So that's the back bump of the chain. And even if the pattern doesn't tell you to do that, you can always do that. I actually always do that. I always start in the back bumps. I just like the way it looks better. Or you can just go directly into the center of the front of the chain. So those are 2 different options. If it says to go in the back bump, it says it for a reason. So I would stick to that. But if it doesn't say it, you have the option of doing it either way that you want. Okay, so now it says we're going to double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. So this that's on my hook here, this loop that's around my hook doesn't count. So we are going to count down 3. Here's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. So it wants me to work into that 3rd chain right there. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm just going to do a double crochet. We start with a yarn over like this, yarn over your hook. So you have that loop on your hook, and then insert your hook right under that bump that I just showed you, right under there. Now you have 3 loops on your hook, 1, 2, 3. Now you're going to yarn over again and pull that yarn through the first 2 loops. And then pull it through 2 more loops. Yarn over and pull it through 2 more loops. So don't worry, we're going to do that a bunch more times so you can see how that's done. So it says double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. That's this double crochet we just made. And then we've got a lot of things going on here. We have a little star, and then we have some brackets. So here's some brackets. So these brackets are telling me that the instructions within those brackets need to be done a certain number of times. So because double crochet in the next chain, chain 1, is within those brackets, that means I have to do that set of instructions 4 times. See, it says 4 times right there. So let's do that 4 times. Double crochet in the next chain. This is the next chain right here. So remember, we start with a yarn over, insert right into that back bump of the chain, yarn over, pull through. So I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2. So now I have 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through those 2 again. So that's my double crochet right there. And then it says chain 1, because remember, we have to do double crochet, chain 1. So here's my chain, exactly how I did it in the beginning. Just yarn over and pull through the loop that's on my hook. Now I made a chain. And then we're going to do that 3 more times. Okay, here's the next back bump. So yarn over, insert into that back bump, yarn over, pull through, 1, 2, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. That's another double crochet, and then we have to do another chain 1. So there's my chain 1. That's 2 times. Remember, we have to do it 4 times. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Chain 1 again. See, I did that 3 times. You just have to keep count of how many times you do this. Now we're going into the next chain for my last time. Insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then the chain 1. So we have gotten through to this part right here, right? So we did those instructions 4 times. Now we can move on to the next little set of instructions, which says skip. It's abbreviated, but it means skip 1 chain. Okay, so I'm going to skip this chain. I'm not going to do anything in that chain. And then it says double crochet 2 together over the next 2 chains 6 times. So we have to do what's within those brackets 6 times, and I'll show you how to do that. So remember, first it says skip the chain. So we're going to skip this one, and we're going to start in this one. And now we have to work a double crochet 2 together, which is considered a decrease. And it's where you're going to make 1 stitch out of these 2 stitches. So instead of working a double crochet and a double crochet, you're going to work both of those stitches, but it's only going to end up being one double crochet. Okay, so here's, skip this one. We're going to work a double crochet 2 together over the next 2 stitches, the chains, or I should say. So let's start with a yarn over. It starts the same as a regular double crochet. Insert into that chain, yarn over, pull through. And now that I have those 3 chains on my hook, I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2. So the first part is just like a regular double crochet. But when you get to this point, it's where you want to stop and do something else as opposed to yarning over and pulling through those 2 like we normally do with a double crochet. So instead, so just keep those 2 on the hook. So you have like a half double crochet. It's not a half double crochet, but it's a double crochet that's halfway done, if that makes sense. Okay, so now we're going to yarn over again and do the same thing into that next chain. And then yarn over, pull through. So now I have 4 loops on my hook. And I'm going to yarn over, pull through the first 2, and now I have 3 again. So now I'm just going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those. So now if you can see what I did, the top of that stitch is 1 stitch. On the top, you can see it's just 1, but on the bottom, it's worked over 2 chains. So we kind of made 2 chains into 1, or 2 stitches into 1. So we have to do that 6 times. So we're going to get more practice with that. So we're doing a double crochet 2 together. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, and then you're going to do the first part of that double crochet, which is yarn over, pull through 2. And now we're going to move on to the next chain. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, and then pull through the first 2. Now I'm back to having 3 loops on my hook. So I'm just going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those. So that's, see how the tops are counting as 1 stitch. There's 1 stitch and there's 1 stitch. But over the bottom, we worked it over 4 chains. So we have to do that 6 times. Let's do it again. Insert, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over again, insert, yarn over, pull through the first 2, and now pull through all 3. Somebody says, let me see if I have a question. You are still using the back bump? Yes. So for the whole first row, see, this is the first row. We are still only sort of halfway through the first row. So when it says working in the back bump, do this, 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 that is going to apply to every bit of instructions that we're doing here. So we're going to do the whole entire thing in the back bumps. Good question. Okay. Do we need to skip between? You only skip, you only need to skip right here. See, after we did the double crochet, chain 1 4 times, we skipped 1 chain, which is what we did. But right here, now we kind of finished with that. Now we're over here and it says double crochet 2 together over next 2 chain 6 times. See right here, we're doing with what's within that bracket 6 times. And here it doesn't say to skip. So I'm not going to skip. If it wanted us to skip, it would say double crochet over next 2 chain, comma, skip next chain, bracket 6 times. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm only doing what's in that bracket 6 times. But that's a good question too. We only had to skip the chain 1 time. So here I have you can kind of see them a little bit more clearly now. That's 1, 2, 3 double crochet 2 togethers. And you can see on the bottom, they're worked over 6 chains, but on the top, it's only 1, 2, 3 stitches. Because if you look at the top of your stitch, it's going to look like a V. And each one of those V's is where we work into in crochet. We work under both loops of that V, and that V counts as 1 stitch. Okay, each V counts as 1 stitch. Just like over here where we only did double crochets, that counts as 1 stitch. There's another V right here, and that's the chain that we made. So that kind of counts too. I mean, that makes a space, it makes a stitch, so you want to count it. So there's a double crochet, there's a chain, there's a double crochet, and here's another double crochet, which was really a double crochet 2 together because we worked it over more chains. We worked it over double the amount of chains. Okay, so let's do 3 more of these. I want to make sure I don't accidentally make a chain. Okay, so here's my 1 chain that I'm working into. And I'm doing the same thing with my double crochet 2 together. I'm starting off a double crochet and not finishing it, and then starting off another double crochet and not finishing it until I yarn over and finish both of those together as 1. The pattern that you're showing is not the one in the website. It's not. I don't know why that
I've been looking at it. It looks the same.
It does? Okay.
The link that I'm giving.
So it might be that it might just be in like a different document format, but the actual instructions right here should be the same. So if you look at yours, you should have like a amount to chain, and then you have a row 1, and then you have a row 2 and a row 3, and that's it. That's the whole pattern. So what we're going to do after we do row 2 and 3 is we're just going to repeat those 2 rows over and over and over and until you make the whole scarf. So it might just look different because mine like was in a Word doc and yours might be in a different format. Document the correct instruction. Why? Yes, I am seeing where the double crochet 2 together is missing. Well, what I can do, maybe I'll just leave this here so everybody can see it. And if you think yours is missing something, yeah, this is the Joy DK Ripple Scarf. If yours is missing something, what I can do is try to send the PDF that I have over to Michael's. And maybe you can put it in the chat, like when we're finished, so people can print it out. Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. But for now, I'll just keep this right here so you can kind of just work along like on screen with me. And then like, it'll be recorded so you can kind of.
Looks like Trisella said that when you print something happens, it makes the directions wrong. But if you copy the document from the website, like the words.
Oh, like sometimes you can't. Yeah, because sometimes websites, you can't just print something off like it'll print like all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have like a download, of a PDF. And
yeah, that might be it.
Okay.
But still, if you send that to me, I can put the document directly in the chat.
Okay. I could probably do it super quick right now in case people want it. because I have it.
And don't everybody forget, like, you can still view the recording in 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
So you can watch it as many times as you need.
Here, I actually have it right here. I can buzz it on over to you super quick. Let me just make it a PDF.
You might be able to attach it to the chat yourself.
Oh yeah, I probably can do that. Okay, so save it as a PDF. Hopefully I can. Okay, I think I just did it. So hopefully everybody can grab that one that I had. You're welcome. Okay, good. It looks like people are seeing it. All right. Problem solved, hopefully. Hopefully everybody is able to download it and print it. Okay. Now, where were we? We did 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochet 2 togethers, and I'm going to do 2 more because I need a total of 6. So we're going to do basically starting 2 double crochets and finishing them together. 1 more, yarn over, pull through 2, insert into the next chain, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through all 3 of those loops. So now look, you can see it's already starting to go in a ripple pattern. So here I have my.
It looks like some of the people aren't seeing the instructions. You wanted to shoot me an email and I'll put it in there.
Can you see it?
I couldn't either.
I can see it. I wonder why. I don't know why.
Did you send it to anybody privately on accident? Not everybody?
I don't think so. I just popped it in the. Oh wait, I did. Yep.
That would be why.
I have to switch it to every.
It's because if somebody messages you directly, it automatically switches your messaging to just to that person instead of everybody in the chat. So
that makes sense. Yep, I did send it to one person. Okay, but that's okay because I have it right here. I can do it really quick again. Now it says to everyone, so hopefully everyone will get it.
There we go. Now I see it.
Okay, good. All right, so here we are. Now we're going to we were right here. Now there's a chain 1 right there, so we have to make that chain 1. And then right after that, it says skip 1 chain. So I only have to do that 1 time. There's no brackets or anything, so I just have to do that 1 time. Chain 1 and skip that chain. So I'm not going to work into this chain right here. And then it says we got back to the brackets, double crochet in next chain, chain 1 3 times. So we're going to do this 3 times. Remember, we skipped this one, so we're going to start right here with just a plain old double crochet right into this next chain because I only skipped 1. So that's my double crochet. And then my chain 1. It's kind of like, it's not kind of, it's exactly what we did in the beginning. And then we're going to do that 3 more times. So it doesn't say skip anymore, so I only had to skip once. I'm going to start in the very next chain. If it doesn't say skip, you go to the next chain, or next stitch, next stitch. So sometimes it doesn't say, sometimes a pattern won't say in next stitch, but if it just says double crochet 3 times or something like that, then that means in the next 3 stitches. It will specify if you need to skip a stitch. Okay, so here's my next double crochet. pull through two, and chain one. Remember, I only have to do that 3 times. Here's my next double crochet and chain one. So I did double crochet in next chain, chain one 3 times. Okay, now I've got a little semicolon, and then it says repeat from star once more. Okay, so all I have to do is repeat everything that I did from the star to the semicolon one more time. So we're going to go back to here, and then we're going to do the double crochet in next chain, chain one 4 times, because I'm repeating everything from the star to the semicolon. So double crochet, chain one, and I'll move this up since we have it now. That was 1 time. And then double crochet. See, I'm still working in those back bumps. It's my double crochet. Chain one, that was twice. So remember, we'll just kind of go over the double crochet again. Yarn over, insert into the back bump of the chain, yarn over again, pull that through. Now I have 3 loops on my hook, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2, and then yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 that are on my hook. And then don't forget to make that chain one. So, did I do that 4 times? Let me see, I did it 1, 2, 3 times, and then I have to do it 4 times. That's 1, 2, 3. I have to do it once more to make it 4 times. Double crochet, chain one. That was my 4th time. Okay, so back to my pattern. Remember, we're doing everything from this star once more. So now we're going to skip 1 chain, and then we're going to do the double crochet 2 togethers 6 times. So skip 1 chain. Here's a chain I'm going to skip. Just skip that once. And then we're going to go back to those double crochet 2 together. So skip, start in this one, yarn over, pull through only the first 2, and then start again, yarn over, insert into the next chain, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through all 3. Okay, that's 1. And then we'll do this again. That's part of my double crochet 2 together. And then that's another double crochet 2 together. I'm going to show you how it looks flat, because some people are asking to look at it flat. As you can see, it's already starting to ripple, and it's going to continue to do that for the whole scarf. Okay, so I did 2 of those, and I have to do 6. So we're just going to do a couple more of those double crochet 2 togethers. And here, remember, we don't have to do any chaining in between. It was only with the last bit of instructions that we have to do the chaining in between. This is just the part where we're sort of decreasing and pulling these stitches together, which is what creates that ripple. So 4. That's 5, and my last one. And this yarn is so great for this, because it's just going to self stripe, and it's just going to change colors as you go along to have some nice pretty color changes, just sort of appearing, like showing up throughout there. Okay, so I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double crochets 2 together. See, if you look at it like this, it looks like a bunch of stitches, but because I pulled those two together, if you see at the top, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, because we made 2 out of 1, essentially.
They want to know if you're still using the back bump on row 2.
No, you can only use the back bump when you're doing like a setup, because the back bump only refers to the chain. So that's whenever you start a crochet project, you're going to start with a beginning chain. Almost all the time, you're going to start with the beginning chain. You can either work into the front of the chain or you can work into the back bump of the chain. Once you get beyond that, you're working into stitches. You're no longer working into a starting chain. And I'm going to show you how to do that because we're going to do that with the next row. Okay, so the back bump only applies to the starting chain. The back bump, not the back loop. That's something different, and I'll explain that too. Okay, so where were we? We did this, and now we're going to go chain 1, skip 1 chain. We don't want to forget that little bit. And then we're going to do double crochet in next chain 1 3 times. So chain 1, skip that chain, double crochet in next chain 1, right here. So here's a double crochet in the chain and a chain 1. Remember, we have 3 times to do that. So that's 1, double crochet, chain 1, that's 2, double crochet, chain 1, that's 3 times. Okay, so now if you remember, it said repeat from star once more. So we went back, we did this, we did this, we did this, and we just finished with that. Okay, because we did it once more. So we did everything from the star on once more. But if you look at my little chain, I have 2 chains left. If you look at my starting chain, I have 1, 2, I have 2 left over. We have to do something with those 2. So go back to your instructions. After that once more, it says double crochet in next 2 chain. So perfect, we did it perfectly right. We have 2 more left, and it just wants us to double crochet in those last 2. So double crochet and double crochet. And I did everything on the starting or row 1. Sometimes they call it a setup row, but I did everything on row 1 in the back bumps of the chain. And here's what we have, okay? So now I don't have a chain anymore. I don't have a long starting chain that I started with before. Now I have a row. This is a completed row with stitches. So there's no more chains for me to really work into, except for those sort of ones that we did in between. Okay, now we're going to work into stitches. And if you put your work like this, you can see there's what looks like V's. Some of the V's are chains because in this pattern we made chains within the row. And some of the V's are the tops of double crochets, okay? So this is what we're gonna work into. We're gonna work into the top of the double crochet, which is under both of those loops. So when we insert our hook, we're gonna go under both of those loops. Sometimes a pattern will say working in the back loop, not the back bump or the back bar, but the back loop. That means they want you to work into this loop only, or in the front loop, which is this loop only. Okay, but unless a pattern specifies work into the back loop or the front loop, you work under both loops, and that's pretty universal for patterns. Okay, so on to row 2, and I forgot we are still in row 1. Yeah, we're still in row 1. Yep, 6 sets of 6 sets of double crochet 2 together. And this is a DK weight yarn. So it's kind of I think it's a number, I don't know if they listed it as a number 3. It seems a little bit heavier than a number 3. So it's kind of like a little bit lighter than a worsted. It's not as thick as a worsted. It's called a DK weight, which means double knit, but it's usually listed as a 3 weight. Okay. So row 2 is very simple. Chain 1, single crochet in every double crochet and every chain 1 space across. So It doesn't have to go step by step like the last one did, because we're just going to do the same thing all the way across our row. And we should have, and this is important too, at the end of this row, it says you should have 45 single crochet. So we're going to want to count and make sure that we do in fact end up with 45 single crochet, because if we have 46 or 44, we missed one somewhere, and we're going to have to go back and fix it because it'll mess up the whole pattern. So you have to have the right stitch count always, always, always. So to start the next row, we are going to chain up 1, and this first chain usually will not count as anything because it's kind of just to bring us to the height that we need to be. Okay, so we have to kind of, in order to get our work a little bit higher, we have to just make 1 chain. And that way it's easy for us to work into the stitches. So I did my 1 chain, and I have to turn my work to start the next row. We're working back, turn, back, turn, back. So we're always working from right to left. Yeah, from right to left, but we're turning in between each row. So here's I have my chain 1, and I want to work into this very first stitch right here, which is the first stitch of the row. So remember, we're going to go under both loops. So we just insert your hook for a single crochet. You don't have to do a yarn over. You just insert your hook under those 2 loops. Then you yarn over, pull that through. And now I have 2 loops on my hook, and I'm going to yarn over again and pull through 2. Okay, and that is a single crochet. So I made 1 single crochet right there. That's what it looks like. It's shorter than the double crochets. Now here's my next double crochet. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go under those 2 loops, yarn over, pull that yarn through, and then yarn over again and pull through 2. That's another single crochet. You see, it's a much shorter stitch. Now right here, I have a chain space, and you can tell because you see there's kind of a space in between these stitches. So we have to work a single crochet into that space. The pattern says in every double crochet and chain 1 space, which it's very important to know that the chain 1 space just means we're working into the space and not under the 2 loops of the chain. Okay, so if it said work into the chain, which normally patterns don't, but once in a while you might get one, then I would have to kind of figure out how to get, it's tight, it's a tight squeeze, but I would have to get my loop under both of those. But luckily it doesn't say that. It just wants us to go right into the space. So then you just have to insert your hook right into that space. Yarn over, pull through, and then I have my 2 loops on my hook. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through those 2. Okay, so that is a single crochet worked into a chain 1 space. And this is a double crochet. You see, it's a long stitch. So we're going to work under the 2 loops of the double crochet, just like we did with the first 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. And now I'm in another space. I'm going to do the same thing. Just put your hook right into that space. Yarn over, pull through 2. And now a double crochet. So I have to go under the 2 loops of the V, yarn over, pull through 2. Chain space, right into the space. See how it's different? You're going into the space as opposed to going into the top of a stitch. Right here, I'm going under the 2 loops of the V, which is the top of a stitch. Yarn over, pull through, but I'm working the same thing. I'm working a single crochet into all of those stitches. And here's another chain space. So I just make a single crochet in there. And now I'm up to where we did those double crochet 2 togethers. So if you look at your work like this, you'll see, okay, There's my V's. I'm just going to work right under the 2 loops of those V's, or the tops of the stitch. So there's 1 single crochet. There's another single crochet. Another single crochet. I'm just working the single crochets into the stitches here. Okay, it looks like I've got another space right here. So I have to work a single crochet into that space. And now the double crochet, don't forget that double crochet. I'm going to work right into the top of the double crochet. And now the space. And now the top of the stitch. So you're kind of alternating into the space and into the stitch. So you're just going to have to go by your pattern. Sometimes patterns will have you work into spaces. Sometimes you'll be working into tops of stitches. Sometimes you're even working into sides of stitches. So there's a lot of variation. You just have to pay attention to the pattern. Okay, here's another space. I'm going to work a single crochet in there. And that's a double crochet. So I'm going to work on top of that and another space. Double crochet, space, and I'm just doing single crochet stitches, which is just insert your hook, yarn over, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. That's a single crochet. It's shorter than a double crochet because you don't do any yarning over to bring it up higher. Okay, now look at it this way because you can see I have a V right here. So don't get confused by the fact that it looks like 2 stitches down here. That's because it's a double crochet 2 together, but we're only going to work 1 stitch into there because we've made that 1 stitch. We made 2 double crochets into 1, so they're counting now as 1, not 2. Single crochet, single crochet, single crochet. Here's another space, single crochet. That's a double crochet. That's a single, that's into the double crochet. It's another single crochet. Let me just show you this really here. So here's what I was talking about, the V. See how I'm going under both of those loops? If the pattern says go under the back loop, then you would just insert your hook under only the back loop and do a single crochet like that. That's it. That's all. The back loop is the one that is furthest away from you, and the front loop is the one that's closest to you. So see how this one's closest to my body. This one is away from my body. So that's the back and that's the front. This pattern, we don't have to do that, but it's in many patterns. So it's good to know. Okay, but for here, I'm going under both loops. And then I'm almost to the end. And this is that when we turned and we worked into the 3rd double crochet, that's what this kind of weird looking thing is here. So we're just going to work our last stitch into the top of that turning chain. And now I want to count to make sure I didn't miss any or add an extra one where I wasn't supposed to. So according to my pattern, I should have 45 single crochets. So I'm going to start here. Here's my first one. You can see the full V. This is kind of just the chain, so don't count that. Start where you got the full V. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, and there's my last one for 45. So we did that right. Now we are on to row 3, and I'm going to go through that one step by step as well. But as you can see in the pattern, we did row 1, we did row 2. Once we complete row 3, after that, it just says repeat rows 2 and 3. So then you're just going to go boom, 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 over and over and over and over until your scarf is completely made. I don't have the finished scarf. I'm sorry, but you know, I have a little label. I don't know what I did with it. Oh yeah, this is like it's like a super tiny picture, but I can still show it to you. This is a different color, but you can see the yarn does all the striping for you. So you don't ever have to add a new ball of yarn or switch colors. It's going to do that like really pretty self-striping, okay? So you just work with the same ball all the way through, just repeat those 2 rows over and over, and this is what the final scarf looks like. I don't have an actual one, sorry. Okay, so now let's do row 3. And row 3 starts with a chain 2, and then it says right here, it does not count as a stitch, and that's very important to know because it's basically telling you the only reason why we were doing that chain 2 is to bring our work up to the height where we need it to be, but it doesn't count as a stitch. So we don't, we have to work into that area and not like skip it thinking that it's a stitch, right? If that makes sense. It'll make more sense when I show you. Okay, so here's my next row. And remember, we have to turn, but I always turn after I chain. You'll probably find that it's easier to do it that way. So we're just going to chain up 2, 1, 2, and that brings our work up higher, right? So now I'm going to turn my work because we turn after every row. And since this chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, sometimes it does, but in this case it does not. That means we're going to work our first stitch right under these 2, this V or this stitch. So sometimes if this would count as the stitch, then you would skip that one because you've kind of already worked it, right? Because this is counting as it, and then you would start here. But in this case, it doesn't count as anything. So we're going to make the first stitch into that first single crochet. So it says front post double crochet around the first single crochet. So it's going to be tough with this one, but we'll try to do it around the first single crochet. Here's the single crochet. So to do a front post stitch, you have to yarn your yarn over, and then rather than going into the top of the stitch, you're going to go around the like the base of the stitch. So normally it's done with double crochet, so it's easier to get around the post, but in this case we have to do it around the single crochet. So I'm going to kind of put my hook around here and then go from the front to the back, and then just sort of, maybe I'll do it here. Yeah, let's just do it here. Okay, then we're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So that's usually post stitches don't start at the very beginning of the row like that because it's kind of awkward to do. So like if it was me, I wouldn't have written it like that, but they did in this case. So we're just going to try to do it, right? So then it says front post double crochet around next single crochet, chain 1 4 times. So let's try to do that. Here's the next single crochet. So we're going to yarn over, and I'm just going to go from the front to the back. See, my hook is coming out the back, and then I'm going to go from the back to the front again and work around this little tiny post here. So you just do your double crochet as you normally would. And then chain 1. So see how all along we were working under the 2 loops of the stitch, but in this case, it wants us to work around the post of the stitch, which is this part right here. So it's a little tricky to do, but once you get used to it, it's not too bad. So you just yarn over, go in from the front to the back, and then from the back to the front. So see how I was able to get my hook like that? So I'm working around that post, and then yarn over, pull through two to complete the double crochet. Chain one. Okay, we did that twice. So let's go around this post here. So just get it in there so you can work around the post. That's basically all you need to do. And then chain one, here's another post. See, that's what the post looks like. That's the post of a single crochet. This is the post of a double crochet, this whole area. So you can see it's easier to work around double crochets. So usually patterns will have you work around double crochets or half double crochets. I don't see it that much with single crochet, but it's doable. Okay, so we just have to identify where the post is, which is right here, and then insert your hook from front to back and then back to front again, so you're able to work around that post. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. So it looks a little bit different than if we were to work into the top of the stitch. And what happens on the front is you get kind of a pretty little edge. So it's more like to give it like a little decorative edge. So we did that 4 times. All right, we did front post double crochet around the next single crochet, chain one 4 times. And then we're going to skip 1 single crochet. And then front post double crochet 2 together around the next 2 single crochet. So don't be afraid of that, because it's almost exactly how we did the double crochet 2 together. You're just working around the post instead of working into the stitch. So chain 1 or skip 1 single crochet, no chains, just skip this one. And then front post double crochet 2 together around the next 2. Okay, so this is the one we're going to skip right here. We're looking at the post. And then we're going to do around this one and this one. So let's try that. Yarn over, insert your hook from front to back and then back to front to work around the post. Yarn over, pull through the first 2, just like we did before. Yarn over again, insert from front to back to go around that post. Yarn over, pull through the first 2, and then I have 3 loops on my hook, and I'm going to yarn over, pull through all 3. So we did front post double crochet 2 together around the next 2 single crochet. We're going to do that 6 times. So it's very, very similar to what we did previously. We just have to remember to go around the post instead of in the top of the stitch. So here's my post. Just get my hook around there, yarn over, pull through 2, and then do that one more time. Yarn over, insert your hook to get around the post, yarn over, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Now you have 3 loops on the hook, you yarn over and pull through all 3. Let's do that again. Yarn over, insert my hook, so I'm working around the post. And once you get your hook in there, it'll sort of pop out for you to, it will present itself to you. Yarn over, insert from front to back, and then again from back to front. See how it kind of pops out? Yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through all 3. Here's another post. You can kind of see what the post looks like. It's got like a loop around there and then these 2 legs. So you just want to make sure you're working around that loop. See how it pops out, where those 2 legs are, okay?
Hey, Liz,
Yeah.
when we get a chance, I don't know if we're going to be able to anytime soon, but so they would like to see the first FPDC again.
Okay.
The first, yeah.
I'll show it to you right now so you can see the difference, because it's very, very similar to what we're doing. To do a front post double crochet. Okay, so a front post double crochet.
Yeah.
The very first. Oh yeah, the very first one is weird. It's really weird. Like that's why I'm saying I don't like that they wrote it like that, because I had to sort of just work. What I did was I went around here. You know what, I can probably do it at the end to show it to you. But if you really hate that, which this is what I would do, because I don't like that, I would just make that a regular double crochet in the first stitch and not worry about working it around the post, because it's just too, like, you don't want to make it harder on yourself. You know, this is like supposed to be fun. So it's one stitch and you're never going to see the difference. So what I would do is I would modify this, which I modify patterns all the time. Once you get used to doing this, you can say, okay, well, I don't love that, so I'm just going to change it to this, and it's still going to work. So you can just work a double crochet in there and instead of a front post double crochet, but I'll still show you how I sort of did it here when we get to the end of this round. Okay, this row, I mean, because it is hard to do at the beginning. It's just, it just doesn't like it. The yarn doesn't like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to do another one because I need 6 of these. That's 5. And then I'm going to do one more to make it 6. Okay, so now I did my 6 front post double crochets. If you look at it, it doesn't look very different to what we were doing with the regular double crochet 2 together. But if you turn your work and look here, see how it made this little sort of border almost. I don't know what you would call it, but it almost looks like stitches sitting on top of stitches. And that's the whole point of it. It just makes this sort of little decorative thing, as opposed to just being flat. So it just gives it a little, like, you know, level up, I guess you could say. It's just for fun. And we did I do too many of those? Let me see. Front post, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I did the right amount. Okay, so we did that, and then we're going to chain 1, skip 1, front post double crochet around the next single crochet, chain 1 3 times. So we're still working post stitches, but first we have to chain 1 and skip 1. So that's going to be this one that we're going to skip. And then we're just going to do a regular post stitch. So front post double crochet, chain 1. I have to do that 3 times. So that's once, that's twice, and that's 3 times. Okay. Now, almost very similar to what we did in row 1, we repeat from star 1 more time. So here's my star. So I'm going to do front post double crochet around next single crochet, chain 1 4 times. Let's do that. Here's my next one. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And that's 4. See, I'm really doing the same thing I did in row 1. We're just working around the post instead of into the top of the stitch. Okay, skip 1 and then do the same thing we did. So skip this one, and I'm going to do this really fast so that way I can get to the end of the row and show you how I sort of weirdly did a post stitch around the first stitch of the row. But like I said, I personally would not write a pattern. Whenever I write patterns with post stitches, I make the first and the last stitch. First and the last stitch, I make it just a regular double crochet or whatever, single crochet. I don't make it a post stitch because it's just too weird to work into the first and last stitches, but it could be something that I don't know. There could be some trick that I don't know about. It could just be when they wrote the pattern, they forgot that that's a weird thing to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here's my last one, right? 6. And then we're just going to do chain 1, skip 1, skip, front post double crochet, chain 1, 1, 2, 3 times. And then I should have front post double, see it says front post double crochet around the last 2. So that's the last bit of instructions for row 3. So I can do front post double crochet around this one. But I don't like doing front post double crochet around the last one because it's like you have to come, see what happens? It pulls it in. There's nowhere for you to sort of, there's nowhere for you to get your hook around. You have to go, it's just weird, okay? So what I would do, and what I'm suggesting you do for this pattern, is just make it a regular double crochet. It's not gonna make any difference at all. And then it's gonna have a nice cleaner edge, okay? So when you do the first one, this is how they did it. This is how she said, first stitch, do a front post double crochet around the first stitch, which to me is just weird. And it doesn't work out well because you have to go around sort of air, right? And you're just twisting things. So instead of doing that, just make your first stitch just a regular old double crochet, put it into the top there, right? That could have just been, you know, she just overlooked it when she made the pattern. But to make it easier on yourself, especially if you're just starting out, work the first and the last stitch of the rows, not around a post, just work it into the top of the stitch, okay? I think that's gonna make it easier for you. Can you send me an instruction list? Did you? Thank you. Sorry, we went over a little bit, but at least we got through those rows because what I wanted to tell you was that once you do row 3, which is what we just did, then you just go back to row 2, which is the single crochets, and then row 3 again. So you're just repeating the last 2 rows that we did. And here you can see this pretty little sort of decorative thing right here. And that was what, that's the benefit of working around the post, is you get this little decorative thing. If we didn't work around the post, if we just worked into the top of the stitch, which you can if you want to modify it and do it like that, if it's easier, it's just going to all look more like this. It's going to have more of a flat appearance, kind of like this, kind of like the back of your work, if that makes sense. So feel free to modify it if you want. As long as your stitch count is correct, you should be perfectly fine. And sorry I had to go a little fast at the end, but you can always watch the recording and watch it as many times as you need to get through it. So thank you everyone for being here today, and thank you for having patience with me. And if you didn't get the instructions, I'll pop it in the chat one more time for anybody who didn't get it, okay? Let me do that really quick before I sign off, but after that I'm signing off. So thank you everyone for being here, and have a great rest of your weekend. Let me see my... It's not letting me add it to the chat anymore. Can you? I don't see the
option.
Yeah, I don't see the option anymore.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, are you able to maybe grab it and add it? Or if I email it to you really quick?
Certainly try. There we go.
Somebody didn't get it, I think. And I can't figure out why I don't have the little icon to make an attachment anymore. Oh yeah, there it is. I see it. So there it is again in the chat for anyone who did not receive it. And now I'll sign
if you're watching from a tablet or a mobile device, it's Zoom actually won't let you see a document added to the chat. And if that's the case, I suggest you just watch the recording in 24 to 48 hours, because all the information that you would need on that document is going to be in that video anyway.
Yeah, and it's on the website too. It just might be in a format. It might not be in a format where you can print it out, right?
Yeah.
But it'll be on there for you to refer to.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Bye.
Bye.